All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to take logical reasoning from being this incredibly daunting hurdle and turn it into your ultimate detective's toolkit for Class 5 and 11 plus exams. If you, or maybe your student, have ever stared at a test paper that's just absolutely full of random shapes and scrambled letters, wondering what on earth is going on, you are in the exact right place. We're demystifying the whole thing. We're going to break down exactly how to decode these questions so you can walk into that exam room with total confidence. So, 14 to 30%. That is a massive number, right? Well, that represents the hefty weightage logical reasoning holds in major competitive exams, like the International Mathematics Olympiad and the International Computer Science Olympiad. It's really not just some fringe topic you can skip over. It's a core pillar of the entire test. Mastering this section doesn't just bump your score up a little bit. It can legitimately be the deciding factor that pushes you right into the top tier of your class. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The reasoning challenge. 2. Verbal versus nonverbal. 3. Cracking alphabet tests. 4. Visuals and 3D. And 5. Prep strategies. Let's dive in. Starting with Section 1, the Olympiad Reasoning Challenge. The fundamental goal of these exams isn't to test your memory. Not at all. They're actually evaluating your ability to apply logic, analyze raw information, and spot the hidden rules to systematically arrive at the right answer. It is pure, out-of-the-box critical thinking. Moving into Section 2, verbal versus nonverbal. Let's look at how almost every reasoning exam splits right down the middle, testing your brain in entirely different ways. It's basically two sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got verbal reasoning. This relies heavily on reading comprehension, vocabulary, and understanding the logic hidden deep within language. And then, completely flipping the script, nonverbal reasoning is purely about visual spatial awareness. You're solving problems using shapes, patterns, and diagrams without relying on words at all. Now, you might be wondering, well, which side is tougher? It's a question parents and students ask me all the time. But the honest truth is, it completely depends on whether you're a stronger reader or more of a visual learner. If you have a massive vocabulary and you just love reading, verbal reasoning might feel like a breeze. But if you're someone who thinks in pictures and easily visualizes shapes in your head, you're going to fly through the nonverbal sections. Neither is inherently harder. They just flex different mental muscles. So a crucial point in verbal reasoning is mastering concepts like the analogy and classification. You really have to treat language like a coded relationship just waiting to be uncovered. For example, if a question gives you a pair of words in an analogy, your first job is to figure out exactly how they're connected. Are they synonyms, antonyms, maybe a category and a subcategory? Once you crack that specific relationship, boom, you just apply that exact same logic to a new pair of words to find your answer. It's a precise formula, guys. Definitely not a guessing game. All right, Section 3, cracking the alphabet test. Let's see how we can build up your ability to decipher one of the absolute most common and honestly sometimes trickiest verbal modules. When you're trying to crack letter series or substitutions, you should always rely on exact mechanical steps rather than just trying to guess a hidden word. Step 1, write the letters down clearly. Step 2, convert them straight into their numeric positions. A becomes 1, B becomes 2, all the way down to Z as 26. And Step 3, look for the mathematical pattern. Are the numbers jumping up by 2 every time? Are they alternating? By literally turning letters into numbers, you take all the guesswork right out of the equation and turn it into simple math. Section 4, Mastering Visuals and 3D. Time to shift gears completely and tackle the nonverbal challenges, where we leave words entirely behind and start thinking in pictures, shapes, and spatial dimensions. To show you exactly what we're up against, here's an actual symmetry question from the sample papers. The question asks for the smallest number of shaded squares you need to add so that a specific line becomes a perfect line of symmetry. Meaning, you literally have to visually reflect those squares across that line in your mind's eye to count the missing blocks. Talk about a pure test of spatial awareness, right? And here's another real-world example demonstrating exactly why you must break down complex visual patterns by analyzing just one single feature at a time. In the first visual coding problem, you're tracking sequences of X's and Y's to find specific combinations. In the second, it's all about the rotational patterns of shapes. If you try to take in the whole entire sequence at once, you'll be completely overwhelmed. The real trick is isolating one element, like maybe the direction an arrow is pointing, or the shading of a tiny box, and just tracking its movement across the sequence before looking at anything else. Moving into the 3D space, we run into nets. Now, mentally folding these flat,
2D layouts into 3D solid cubes can definitely make your brain feel like it's doing gymnastics. But trust me on this, it's a highly masterable skill. Think of a net as just an unfolded box. The test is going to show you a flat layout and ask which 3D cube it's going to form when you fold it all together.
The absolute key here is having a reliable system. Please don't try to fold the whole thing in your head all at once. Instead, find the folding direction, look for adjacent faces, and identify the opposite faces to quickly eliminate wrong answers. Think about it. If two shapes are on completely opposite ends of a long, flat net, there's absolutely no way they can ever touch each other on the finished cube. If an answer choice shows them touching, instantly cross it off. Process of elimination is your best friend here. Finally, Section 5, Winning Preparation Strategies. Because knowing the concepts is really only half the battle, let's assemble all these tools into a cohesive battle plan for exam day.
Notice how crucial it is to always start with untimed practice. The goal here is skill building, truly understanding the mechanics and getting your accuracy dialed in before you ever introduce the stress of a ticking clock. When you first encounter a new concept, like 3D nets or coding decoding, take all the time you need to get it right. Only when you're consistently nailing the right answers should you transition to timed practice. That's where you build your speed and learn how to navigate that exam room pressure.
As you go through your practice sessions, you need to rigorously track your errors. Specifically, watch out for these top, very common mistakes that trip up even the absolute brightest students. Guessing without actually breaking down the pattern, huge mistake. In nonverbal tests, rushing almost always leads to missing tiny visual details, like a line that rotated 45 degrees instead of 90. And in verbal tests, ignoring unfamiliar vocabulary instead of using context clues is a classic pitfall. Just being aware of these traps puts you way ahead of the curve. Success isn't luck, it's a strategy. This pretty much perfectly summarizes our whole philosophy today. We don't approach Olympiads or 11+ exams as some rigid test of raw, unchangeable intelligence. No, we treat it as a highly systematic game of applied logic. If you learn the rules of the game, practice the specific question types, and analyze your slip-ups, you are absolutely going to improve. So, are you ready to crack the code? Now that you're armed with the Ultimate Detectives Toolkit for verbal and visual reasoning, what hidden patterns are you going to uncover in your very next practice run? Whether you're turning letters into math or doing mental origami with a 3D cube, you now have the exact strategies needed to approach these problems with clarity and total confidence. Try taking these methods for a spin today, untimed at first, remember, and just watch your skills skyrocket. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy problem solving!